But not every fragrance has to be inspired by Baccarat Rouge 540. Not every fragrance has Aventus DNA. I just don't understand. I just don't get it. Oh my goodness. Okay, I was having a moment, guys. Let's jump into the video. Hello and welcome. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about a fragrance that was just launched a couple of weeks ago, if that. And as soon as I saw it available online, I ordered it because from the notes, I knew that I wanted to really try this fragrance. What I did not expect was that there were going to be so many reviews where people are comparing it to fragrances like Baccarat Rouge 540, Aventus, Nishane, Hachivat. I mean, there's just so many fragrances. And I did testing, quite a bit of testing actually, side by side with some of the fragrances that I thought may be in the same realm. So, but in the end, guys, the one that it matches to, the one that is closest to it, is one that I did not expect. So I'm sure that most of you know that I did post an update on the community tab of the channel last night because I just had to vent. I just had to share with you guys because it finally hit me. Oh my goodness, this is the one that it was mostly inspired by. But you're not going to believe the fragrance that I'm talking about. Anyway, guys, so today I'm going to give you a full review as I've had the opportunity to use this fragrance for a couple of days. And I'm also, of course, going to talk about all of those comparisons. And I will also be rating the fragrance for you and sharing with you at the very end, which is the fragrance that I really believe this one was inspired by. And of course, you know that I'm talking about Afnan 9 PM Rebel. But before we jump right in, if this is your first time here, I'm Arahi, and I'm your fragrance concierge because I'm totally committed to creating the best fragrance experience for you. I upload videos multiple times a week, and in this channel, we love to talk about fragrances in general, whether they're affordable, Middle Eastern, Western niche, designer, body-scented products. We just love to smell fabulous at all times. Now, if that sounds like the type of content that you're interested in and like a good plan, then please consider subscribing, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, leave a comment. Let's go. All right, guys, so as I mentioned in the opening, this fragrance was launched maybe a couple of weeks ago at that. I think it's actually more like a week and a half. And I picked it up immediately because this is supposed to be a flanker to the Afnan 9 collection. And I do have a couple of the other 9 fragrances from Afnan. But this one, there was just something about the notes that really piqued my interest. And I'm going to be honest with you, from the note structure, I automatically knew that this was either going to be a unisex fragrance or a unisex fragrance leaning towards the masculine side. But there was just something, you know, like a gut feeling that told me, you know, pick up that fragrance and let's do some testing around that fragrance. But guys, I never expected to find what I found as what I think to be the fragrance that this Afnan 9 PM Rebel was inspired by. Now, this is a fragrance that opens up very sweet. It is very fruity. It has a good bit of vanilla, and the opening is kind of fresh because there's quite a bit of citrusness going on there. And it's courtesy of the note of, if I recall correctly, of mandarin. It also has a beautifully done note of caramel, but what I'm loving about the way the caramel has been done in this fragrance is that there's also like a balsamic touch to it. So it's not just caramel, and different than other gourmands that I've tried, not that this one is a gourmand by the way, but different than gourmands that I've tried recently, this caramel is not like a burnt caramel. This is truly like a silky smooth caramel. Now, a very dominant note in this fragrance, and which contributes quite a bit to that fruitiness, is the note of pineapple. And the pineapple combined with the mandarin and that caramel and that vanilla make for a very, very sweet fragrance. To my nose, this fragrance is really sweet, but curiously enough, it's not really like cloying or an obnoxious sweet or just overly done sweet. No, this is just a fragrance that is very sweet. But at that, it is very, very pleasant. It has an incredibly beautiful opening. Now, the beauty of today's review, I have to tell you, is when I jump into the comparisons, because there has been so much talk around this fragrance, around what was it inspired by. And to be honest with you, from the reviews that I've seen and that I've read so far, I don't know. I don't think it's getting very good reviews, but I'm here to tell you that I totally disagree, because I really, really have enjoyed this fragrance, and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful fragrance. Is this for everybody? No, I don't think it's for everybody, because to my nose, this is definitely a fragrance that is unisex, and it does not lean to the masculine side. On the contrary, because of that sweetness and that fruitiness and a couple of other notes like vanilla, which is pretty present in this fragrance, it's almost giving me like a tad of a lean to the feminine side. But I think that I'm the only reviewer and the only person that I've seen or read talk about this fragrance that feels that way about it. To me, this is not a masculine fragrance, and it is not one that leans towards the masculine side. This is truly a unisex fragrance, and if I had to pick a lean, I would say it leans a tad to the feminine side. The other thing that you have to know about this fragrance is that once you receive it, guys, I am telling you, this is a beast. So I really believe that this fragrance completed its maceration process, or is pretty advanced in its maceration process, and now it is just in maturation, I guess, because when I tell you that from the first moment I sprayed this fragrance, guys, I am getting 10 to 12 hours with this fragrance, and I am getting a very, very strong projection during the first 2 to 2.5 hours, mostly closer to the 2.5 hour mark. And then after that, it becomes a scent bubble. And that is a scent bubble that lasts me, my goodness, up to like maybe the 6th or 7th hour. And then after that, it does become a skin scent. And that skin scent will linger with you until you literally shower, but you have to scrub, because this will just not leave your skin. And on clothes, forget it. Until you launder them, like really launder them, you are going to have this scent. This is a fragrance that I haven't had the opportunity to really wear out of the house much, right? But I really believe that it would be a compliment getter, because my husband did like it quite a bit. And it is a fragrance that has an incredible sillage. I mean, it is rare to find a fragrance, at least in my experience, that has a strong projection and a strong sillage. But this one, oh my goodness. So let's talk about the olfactory journey that I get from this fragrance. So guys, when this fragrance opens, it is all about the pineapple and the mandarin. But I dare say that there's other fruits that have not been disclosed, because I am picking up on a tad bit of bergamot. You know, that balance between like mandarin or orange and bergamot that you find in a fragrance? That is what I'm getting in the opening. But the opening is dominant with pineapple. The pineapple is the star of this fragrance, in my opinion. Now, as the fragrance evolves and you're like midway into the olfactory journey and towards dry down, you are going to start to pick up on a bit of spiciness. And when that spiciness kicks in, it's almost like the sweetness kind of like takes a back seat, because the fragrance, while it is still sweet, it's going to be a bit less sweet. Now, let me tell you, if you notice from the notes that I'm sharing with you, there seem to be no notes that would justify my picking up on spiciness. But I am telling you that I am picking up on spicy notes. And one of those spicy notes to my nose is pink pepper and a tad bit of cardamom. And I'm even picking up on a bit of coriander. That is what I am getting for sure. So I really just think they did not disclose the spicy notes, but they are present. And those spicy notes will play a big role when we talk about the comparisons. And I share with you the fragrance that I really believe this one was inspired by. Another thing of note here is that they have not disclosed any florals. But I am picking up on florals in this fragrance. I don't pick them up in the opening, but all the way through maybe 3 to 4 minutes into the opening of the fragrance, I start to pick up on white florals. And it's not just one. It's not a bouquet either. It's like a couple of white florals. And I can't put my finger on it. Jasmine is definitely one of them, but I can't put my finger on what is the other one exactly yet. But I'm sure that as I continue to use this fragrance, I'll be able to tell you what is the other floral. All in all, guys, at the dry down, you are going to get a beautiful, beautiful, fruity, sweet, with a heavy vanillic presence type of fragrance. And the scent is just glorious. I really, really do enjoy this fragrance. And honestly, I did not expect to love it as much as I do. I really just didn't, because and when we talk about comparisons, which I'm really looking forward to getting to, because that's where the juiciness of this discussion will reside, but I just really expected it to be more of like a male leaning type of fragrance, and it has not resulted to be that at all, at least not to my nose. So a couple of more details before we go into the comparisons is I really think that this is a fragrance that is suitable for 25 plus. So just about any age group can really pull this fragrance off, because it's a very, not an easy pull necessarily, and not a mass appealing fragrance either, but I don't think that this is one that you should be concerned about. If you like those notes, it may even be a safe blind buy, because it's really a very, very nicely done fragrance that it's just, it doesn't have any kind of like notes or accords or tonalities that I believe would be a bit polarizing. Well, I don't think this is mass appealing, because you have to be into certain notes, like those notes of pineapple. You know, pineapple, when it's dominant, can really be something in a fragrance. And in this fragrance, pineapple is the star. This is a fragrance that you can use for any occasion, day or night. Is this one that I would use to go to the gym, or for any occasion where I feel that I'll be perspiring, like to go jogging or go take yoga or anything like that? No, guys, at least not for me. But other than that, this is a fragrance that you can dress up, you can dress down, you can use it for informal occasions, you can use it for very dressy occasions, and you can even use it for very special occasions and events. I have to tell you, I really am enjoying this fragrance, and I really, really do think that many of you will enjoy this fragrance. And I give it a 9 out of 10. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and jump into the part of this video that I've really been looking forward to, because, you know, so in some of the reviews that I've read, I'm finding that people are comparing this fragrance to Hachivat, Hachivat X, and also just Hachivat, and they're comparing it to Creed Aventus, and comparing it, of course, to Baccarat Rouge 540. And let me just start by saying that I could not disagree more. While there is a similar vibe in this fragrance, and I'll get more into it in a minute, but there is a similar vibe. They're not the same fragrance. Believe me, they're not. There is a similar vibe to Baccarat Rouge 540, because this is a fragrance that, although it is very sweet, there's an airiness to it. So there's a similar vibe that you get from Baccarat Rouge 540. But is it Baccarat Rouge 540? Absolutely not. Not to my nose whatsoever. But let's go ahead and start by comparing Afnan 9 PM Rebel to Hachivat. Now, Hachivat and Hachivat X are fragrances that I have in my collection, but I have pulled Hachivat X because with Hachivat, I'm really, guys, not finding any real basis for similarities, you know, that justify me bringing it for a comparison. But when it comes to Hachivat X, let me just say that While there may be a tad of a similar vibe here just because of the note of pineapple, so let me just say that the one note that will set these two apart immediately, at least to my nose, is that in Hachivat X, you find the note of patchouli. And the patchouli that you find in Hachivat X is not a demure patchouli. It's patchouli that is present. And even though Hachivat X, to me, at least in my opinion, compared to the original Hachivat, is a bit more feminine. It's a bit more of a feminine fragrance. Not necessarily that it leans towards the feminine. I think that Hachivat X is pretty much unisex, but in the original, at least to my nose, I found that one to lean a tad to the masculine side. Well, with Hachivat X, you don't get that. But what I will say is that these two are not the same, because you will pick up on that patchouli in Hachivat X all the way from first spray all the way to dry down. In addition to that, again, 9 p.m. Rebel is a very, very sweet fragrance. And Hachivat X, while being sweet, it's just a tad sweet to my nose. It's really not a fragrance that I would consider to be full-on sweet. And this one is more than full-on sweet. In addition to that, a couple of other notes that also make a difference is that in Hachivat X, you are going to find the note of lime. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but you also find orange blossom. Now, orange blossom is definitely a note that I'm not really picking up in Afnan 9 p.m. Rebel. Now, when it comes to the note of lime, there is a considerable difference, at least to my nose, between lime and bergamot. And when I told you that I'm picking up on other fruits in 9 p.m. Rebel, I am picking up on like a tad of a bergamot, not lime, but like a bergamot type of citrusy note. And I can honestly tell you that just that note difference, those notes that I've mentioned to you, set these two completely apart, because they are definitely not the same fragrance. The next fragrance that I want to compare 9 p.m. Rebel to is Aventus. And this is the For Her, because this is the one that I have in my fragrance room. But in this house, we have all the Aventus, right? So my husband has the male version of Aventus and the original. So let's talk about this comparison. And guys, this is something that it's almost becoming a pet peeve. It just seems that as soon as a fragrance has a certain note structure, it is immediately compared to Aventus. And not every fragrance that has similar notes is going to be Aventus. So in the overall DNA of Aventus, right, you're going to find notes such as like blackcurrant and patchouli and birch and ambroxan, jasmine and pink pepper. And I have to tell you, those notes do make quite a bit of difference, because most of those notes cannot be found in this fragrance. And guys, they're just really, to my nose, they really are a world apart. Are there similar vibes? I don't even find similar vibes. This is such a sweet, sweet fragrance that I can't even think for a minute or touch on comparing it to Aventus. So to me, these two are not the same at all. All right, so the next fragrance that I want to compare this 9 p.m. Rebel to, and the last one before I share with you the fragrance that I really believe this one was inspired by, of course, is Baccarat Rouge 540. Now guys, and this is not the X-Ray, this is the original. So let me start by saying that to my nose, the star of this fragrance is the note of saffron. And while I told you earlier that I am picking up on a bit of spiciness midway through the olfactory journey in 9 p.m. Rebel, saffron is really not a dominant spicy note that I'm picking up at all. These two do give me a similar vibe, because there's just an airiness. When you wear this fragrance, you will pick up on that airiness. And I think that that airiness is what we all love about Baccarat Rouge 540, because say what you may, we may all be tired of this DNA, but this is an incredible fragrance, guys. And this will be in my collection forever, because it is just incredible. And it is a fragrance that I really enjoy layering with. So Let me just go back to 9 p.m. Rebel and say these two, to my nose, are not the same at all. 9 p.m. Rebel is an airy fragrance, and it does have a bit of spiciness to my nose, even though it hasn't been disclosed. But this is really not a full-on Baccarat Rouge 540 inspired by, not even 70% Baccarat Rouge 540, not even 60, not even 50. All right, guys, so now I'm going to share with you the fragrance that when I realized, oh my goodness, that is probably what 9 p.m. Rebel was inspired by. I just could not believe it. And I am speaking about Kajal's Lamar. Guys, yes, believe me, believe me, believe me. So Kajal Lamar is a fragrance where the pineapple is the star, truly. And it is a fragrance that has a lot of similarities in the olfactory journey when it comes to 9 p.m. Rebel. The olfactory journey is not the same, but there are considerable similarities. So while 9 p.m. Rebel opens in a certain way, and I'm going to give you all the details in a minute, while 9 p.m. Rebel opens in a certain way, Lamar has that opening effect that you get with 9 p.m. Rebel midway through the olfactory journey. But the funny thing is, guys, that at the dry down, truly at the dry down, not even at the end of the olfactory journey, no, at the dry down, you are going to have like 90% the same fragrance. So let's talk about these two fragrances. So when it comes to Lamar, guys, you are going to find a presence of a floral that you're not necessarily going to pick up on 9 p.m. Rebel. At least I'm not picking up that floral, even though they haven't disclosed any floral. But I am telling you, there are some florals in this fragrance. And the florals that I'm picking up are definitely white. But in Kajal, you are going to pick up on the note of rose. And that rose shows up, at least to my nose, probably like 3 to 5 minutes into the olfactory journey. And it stays with me all throughout. And at dry down, the rose does take a back seat, but this is not, Lamar to me is not a rose-centric fragrance. Please do not get it wrong, because I'm not trying to say that Lamar is a rose centric fragrance, because this fragrance to my nose is all about that pineapple. But at the end of the day, that rose does make a difference when it comes to comparing these two fragrances. Now, the other thing about Lamar is that you are going to find quite a bit of spiciness, and the spiciness comes in midway in the olfactory journey. Now that spiciness is also in the background in the opening, which you don't get that in Rebel. Rebel is considerably sweet. Lamar is sweet, but for those of you that think that Lamar is sweet, oh no, 9 p.m. Rebel beats it by, when I tell you this is a super sweet fragrance, this is a super sweet fragrance. The funny thing is, guys, that those are the only real differences that I'm finding between these two fragrances. Are they exactly the same? They're not exactly the same, but I have to tell you that to my nose, they're 90% the same. And the funny thing is that, as I said before, when you just uncap each one of these fragrances side by side, you are going to get the exact same scent. But when you spray it on skin and you start to go through the olfactory journey, you are going to realize that there are some differences between both of these fragrances. But those differences just reside in the olfactory journey, because at the dry down, you're going to get 90% the same fragrance. All in all, if you have been looking forward to picking up Lamar, or you really enjoy Lamar, I would be very curious to know, what do you think of this fragrance? Now, if you are looking for a fragrance that is very, very, very similar to Kajal's Lamar, then you should really give Afnan 9 p.m. Rebel a shot, because I am telling you that this fragrance is at least 90% Kajal's Lamar. In addition to that, if you are into fragrances that have a very centric pineapple note without necessarily giving you a tropical feel, then this is also a fragrance that would be suitable for you. Now, when it comes to Lamar, even though the pineapple is centric, I get more of a tropical vibe from Lamar than I get from 9 p.m. Rebel, because 9 p.m. Rebel to my nose does not give me that tropical feel. It is truly about that pineapple, in addition to a couple of other notes, like some of the spicy notes that have not been disclosed, and also a floral presence, because to my nose, there is a floral presence to this fragrance. Is it as present as in Lamar? No, not really. But there is definitely, at least to my nose, a floral presence in this fragrance. All in all, I highly recommend this fragrance if you are into those specific notes, or if you've been looking for a more affordable alternative to picking up Kajal's Lamar. All right, guys, so we've reached the end of today's video, and I hope that this was as enjoyable for you as it has been for me. I have to tell you, once I was done testing side by side, and as I was in the process of testing 9 p.m. Rebel side by side with the fragrances that I shared with you today and others, I was getting more and more excited. And, I just knew that at some point I was going to find a similar fragrance, because when I sprayed 9 p.m. Rebel, I knew that there was a similar vibe, feel, and even scent profile in my collection that was very, very, very much 9 p.m. Rebel. And then in the end, to find that it was so similar to Lamar, which is a fragrance that I absolutely love and that a lot of people quite love, it was just so exciting. But anyway, guys, as always, thank you so much for hanging with me today, and I will see you all in the next video.